Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome to another episode of Maholiyati Mukalme. Today we have the pleasure of being joined by Ms. Qudsia Rahim, the founder and executive director of the Lahore Biennale Foundation. She has a background in art and academia. She's established several initiatives, including the field elective program at the National College of Arts called Art for Humanity. She also organized the research cell at the Lahore Biennale Foundation and the Afforestation Lahore Group, which is a consortium of government and civil society which works on the loss of local and urban ecology. Endorsed by the Climate Change Ministry and the Pakistan Environmental Protection Agency, Ms. Rahim is the project director of the Green School Certification Program that focuses on critical thinking and whole systems learning on climate change education and ecological practices using art education as a pedagogical tool. She is also leading the LBF's efforts in organizing the Lahore Biennale 3rd edition of Mountains and Seas. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
So today the conversation that we're going to have is around Lahore Biennale Foundation and the 3rd edition of the Biennale, which is on Mountains and Seas. And this is organized and curated by John Tain. It addresses sustainability, ecology, and emerging issues, and also human responsibility. And you've gathered 60 artists from across the world and Pakistan.
Yes.
And this program is open to the public, and I understand that it's been running since 5th October until
the 8th of November.
Mm-hmm.
No, 5th, but we had to change the date to 6th because there was, slight, protest or hiccup in the general calendar of the city.
Mm-hmm.
But these things happen. We are resilient people, and luckily we were able to move the dates to the 6th of October.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for a lovely introduction.
So I'd love to just jump straight in and talk about what the Biennale is and what really the thought process behind it was and how it's kind of evolved since it was conceived of.
So what is a biennial? A biennial is the largest art event that the country hosts. It's not a local exhibition, it is not a regional exhibition, it's a global positioning of your country and bringing art and larger arts community into dialogue with the global community. The way it is structured is that any biennial is curated by someone, and what happens is that the foundation puts forward a theme or a general area of investigation. In this case, we had requested John Tain to work on environment and ecologies because we were working in this for some time. And we were developing our research and our bandwidth to actually fit it into a biennial. Because again, a biennial is a very complex tool or mechanism or a thought, right? So, which has a very, very physical manifestation, but it is nonetheless, it's a very complex idea, concept. So, we had been working for some time and inviting John Tain for this. We were very aware of what we were asking him for, and we wanted not a very, sometimes, people go to these spaces and they are paintings and sculptures and known forms of art making. I think it's very important for us to also make sure that, we question that as well. We question art making itself. We question who is an artist, who is a voyeur, who is looking at the viewer. Sometimes the viewer is also the participant, and sometimes the viewer is also the artist in this case. So we do question the forms of art making. I think this biennial looks very much like an apothecary's workshop, and as it should be, because there are no definitive ways forward. We know that already. There are no set answers. But what we need to do is come up with our own answers, our own questions, and our own way forward. So in that capacity, this biennial really is a thought-provoking biennial where we are hoping that the viewer feels integrated in the larger world ecology and takes away something precious with them. The idea of collective thinking is important. Action तो बाद में सबने खुद करना है, right? To each their own. But can we think about these issues collectively? It's very important. And I think that's what this biennial does. So what is a biennial foundation? It's a global art event. And inviting then global participants make complete sense, right? So this biennial we have 60 artists.
Yeah.
Last biennial we had more than 80 artists, so that was a larger biennial. So we have 60 artists from 30 different countries. And we also have a climate congress towards the end, and that has 63 artists coming from all over the world, including local artists. And the idea is just to create an atmosphere of conversation, atmosphere of knowledge sharing, a space where people can talk, gather, and reflect.
So this year you've chosen the theme of mountains and seas. So how does that, well, what was the thinking behind picking this theme, and then how does it also relate to Pakistan and specifically Lahore's ecology and the way that we're talking about the environment here?
I think mountains and seas are two extreme points.
Okay.
They're not literally mountains and seas.
Yeah.
It's like it's two extreme points and two geographical points also, and everything that lies in between, right? So in some capacity, it's an idea of something that waves through or moves through these kind of ideas and concepts. But I think I have to go back to 2018 when we first did the first biennial, and that it was very clear in that moment that environment and ecology, although we were very ecologically very aware. So for example, our biennial footprint, we were very aware, you know, Razali Dada designs our exhibitions and experiences, and he's, you know, make sure that, you know, all the material that is used has a second life. All the equipment that we use has a second life, or things that we do have don't go directly into waste, right? So we have been very conscientious about it from the beginning, but in 2018 when we were working with the government a lot, because we work in art and public spaces, and of course government is a very important stakeholder. And
you can't do it without them.
We can't do it without them. But I think that is perhaps, you know, limitations have its own rewards. And I think in this case, working with the government was very good for us, and it was very good for them, because by asking them, requesting for these spaces and working in them, they had slowly built confidence in us that we were not out there to exploit anything or work for personal gain or anything. We were there to actually work on the better health of the city. And we wanted to work with the discipline and bring opportunities to the discipline. So our goals were very different from when we started, because I thought we're a group of friends who got together who started the Lahore Biennale Foundation. And because it was my idea, I had to take the brunt of the work, right? So the good part is that everybody has a role to play. Everybody is doing something, involved in some capacity, and helping it take it forward. It's not a one-person job, but I just have the executive position in which I have to make sure that the deliverables are met and the things and the goals are met. So how did it come about? In 2018, when we did the first biennial, I think it was very clear in that time that concerted effort between the government and the civil society needed to happen. The commissioner at that time, Mushtaba Paracha, was very forthcoming, and he said, Qudsia, if you can bring the civil society, I'll bring the government on the table.
Okay,
so the first meeting, I must tell you, he said, who can you bring on the table? And he named some names. I said, sure, you know, uncle this and auntie that. It was good because it was very easy for me to bring them on board, because I was already aware of them. I was aware of the practice, I was aware of what they were working, and I also believed in them. So when we all came together on a set date in that meeting, and Mushtaba Paracha was like, okay, maybe this girl won't be able to do it. lo and behold, they all were there. And that gave him the strength to pull his colleagues forward. So Afforestation Lahore Group is a very precious entity in which all the departments of the government and the civil society and the CSOs and the academic institutions all come together for the better health of the city. And then he got it notarized by the CS, so that was also another helpful thing because now it has a longevity. In the beginning, there were all kinds of doubts that this won't be able to work, but we have planted 2.5 million trees. We were part of the whole movement when the Commission's office was trying to ban the plastics, the single-use plastics, and when the campaign for, crop burning, that was launched, or, the zigzag movement, or some of us had worked on the peri-urban policy with urban unit. I think it was really nice that different people from the civil society were in conversation with the government sometimes, and sometimes it worked beautifully, sometimes it didn't work, but we were not on the streets fighting each other. We were on the table negotiating, and on the table trying to say what we felt, what we thought, and what they thought, and their limitations. And frankly speaking, what I learned from this whole experience was that we're all part of the same community and we all want the same. Some people are limited because of their work or because of their other kind of predispositions. But we're all breathing the same air. We all want a clean air. It doesn't matter who you are. So, the feeling of the larger community, that is what something Afforestation Lahore brought. And 2.5 million trees later, so much work. 2 years later, into the project, we said, let's reflect on it. And what do we need to do next? And that's when the Green Schools program came about, in which we decided to bring climate education and ecological practices into school. Okay, we can't just continue planting trees because it's not going anywhere. The other learning from planting, 53 Miyawaki forests with PHA, planting all these, making plantation a trend, writing a list of indigenous species, those kind of things, and we got it vetted, we got PHA to start planting those. That was perhaps just one aspect of things, right? We wanted to explore more, and then we realized that perhaps bringing ecological practice and climate conversation to schools. What does it mean? The children are the recipients of the climate crisis. They are not the instigators, but we need to empower them with the right kind of thought process or right kind of information at least, right? So we decided, Abdullah Sumbul was the chairman PNT at that time. I went to him. He was very helpful in helping me give some time. Sometimes, for projects, these kind of projects, you need time. So he gave me access to the school education department, the PND department, those kind of things. And I was creating this program. I went to my friend who's one of the most capable people I know, who's teaching at LUMS, Razia Sadiq. I said, Razia, you've done art education, and let's see what we can. We know this is an issue. Let's see how we can bring it to our students, and see what can we do about it. Well, Razia and myself, we started conjuring this project, and through VTR, Visible Training Routine, a tool that she had done a PhD in, something that she was very familiar with, and it also works through observation and observation and keen looking, right? So it's just an easy, intuitive tool that was very easy to train the teachers to take on certain roles, and for the students to understand through observation and through research. It was a very we invited WWF to be part of it. So now we had the government, we had the WWF, we had the School of Education at LUMS, and together we went into schools as a pilot project. And so many conversations and work later, the pilot project was a raving success because the teachers were responsive. The students, of course, were dying to find out.
Yeah, something new.
Something new, but they wanted to find out what the hell is happening, right? So, and then they could talk to each other. They could talk to the the teachers. Now they were having enough space where students are talking to each other. They're saying, "Oh, my house, close to my house, this is happening," and they're saying, "Oh, but my father goes to the factory and he comes back and he's sick." They were able to heal. Heal is perhaps a very strong word over here, but they were supposed to talk. They were able to talk to each other, and by talking to each other, there was a certain level of therapeutic kind of energy that happened between them, which was very good. And then in the workshops, we were teaching them how to clean water. In the workshops, we were saying how to protect yourself and those kind of things. And what we realized was that kids were going home and to their own communities and their villages and disseminating this information. It was like a win-win situation. The pilot project went very well, and we also saw that the private schools were less in adhering to ecological practices, but they had more information, whereas the public school, it was the other way around. So मैं तो लोगों को ये कहना शुरू की पब्लिक स्कूल की ताकत पे प्राइवेट स्कूल से कुछ उनके हिस्से का काम करवाना पड़ेगा. So I think ICI, I totally forgot to mention those guys, because what we did by working with them was now we were able to upcycle plastic into fiber. So we're not like just putting it back into the ecosystem and then they're becoming pellets and they are being reused. Now they're becoming fiber and going into fabric manufacturing and those kind of things. So in a way that it gets a different life. From this developed the zero waste program, because it was so easy to clean schools or collect the waste and process the waste, because they're very clean waste over there. You have paper, you have organic waste, and then you have plastics. And then whatever little is, like, it's very easy to go under 10% in no time. It's only how you position yourself. So I mean, so lots of learnings came about and lots of actionable points came about. We are in conversation with somebody to take on this project and do it on a larger scale. The government's been very kind with us too. They understand the power of this thing and they're saying, okay, why don't you start with our departments? And again, offices again, very clean waste. You can actually sell all the paper. You can actually, there's a little bit of metal or those kind of clips and things involved. Again, that is also collectible and upscalable. So a lot of waste can have like a way forward. All of these learnings bringing us to the climate biennial. Because we are collecting all this data, we're collecting all this information, we are working towards trying to understand what does it mean, seeing how the trends are developing. Some of the trends we were able to help develop, like, there was a time when we started doing the plantation. Atiyah Noon and Tariq Zaman were very helpful, and then we realized that people are doing their birthdays with plantation of the trees, or somebody passed away doing plantation like that. So there was like a movement that everybody got involved in. This has got nothing to do with politics. This was just a social movement. People finding it necessary to do their part. And I think a little bit more of that needed to happen. So when I saw the first biennial, we did the Biennale and there were some ripple effects, post-biennial trends developing. And the second biennial, we saw certain trends developing. It was written in the sky, right in front of me. Let's do this. Let's see what kind of trends develop with this. What kind of like thinking can develop from this, and what kind of plurality of thought, different people when they're doing, like, we work with LUMS, we work with Curated College, we work with BNU, we working with NCA and Punjab University. All the students, I've been to NCA last couple of years for juries, not a single person was working with environment. Now, let's see what happens. I'm excited because these artists are incredible catalysts of change, and art is something that means no boundary, right? You can be whoever you are, you can practice your art, you don't have to explain anything to anybody. To each their own. You go and see a beautiful painting and you'd be taken by it. And half your life you can devote to try to understand what the artist is saying. Mona Lisa taught us, if anything, Mona Lisa taught us that, right?
Yeah.
That everybody is looking at it still in wonder what it is. What did the artist say? So I think art is a beautiful space, a beautiful, I'm afraid to say tool, but a beautiful medium. I think that would be a nice word for it, to bring people together, to spread the word.
Yeah. And I really like how you've kind of framed the idea of the event as not the end point, but the start of the conversation. So from this, we're going to get all of these ideas and let's see where it takes us next. Let's see who we end up connecting and what they end up doing together. So I want to go deeper into this idea of the role that I guess art can play, because obviously you've worked with civil society, you've worked with business, you've worked with the government, and they all come up against certain barriers. You've also seen how civil society or the general public is interested in these ecological things and they want to get involved. So where do you think art fits into this? What can it do that the other stakeholders really aren't able to do in getting their message across?
I think we're not talking about it. So this biennial, by inviting collateral events, by inviting educational institutions, by inviting local international collaborators, but I'm working with the government. Yeah. So I think one thing that we wanted to, an outcome of this was, people just talk about it. The direction we have to take, the questions are ours, the answers we have to come up with. There's no Messiah coming, we all know that. So what are we going to do about it? So once we all start thinking, the machinery starts working, everybody is going to assume a role. The biennial is not to tell you the role that you need to take. The biennial is just to make you think. That's the role of the biennial. Our goals are very simple. It's a congregation of people from all over the world saying, let's build a community of care. It's a congregation where we exchange knowledge. It's a congregation where we talk about issues, the contemporary issues that we need to address, and we can't throw it under the rug. Okay, smog season's coming, we're all worried. Smog season goes away, we forget all about it, but we can't do that, right? So what do we need to do today, individually, but we have to first think collectively, and the questions are ours. The problems in the West are problems of the West. They've gone very far in all of these things, and they're coming up with some crazy and some logical way forward, but they're theirs. We have to come up with ours.
Yes.
So I think that's what the biennial's role is. I think that's where we need to start talking about it, build scholarship. I think academics have their role, their part in adding, researching on various aspects. So once we all start talking, solutions will come from it. And researchers will bring their findings, knowledge exchange, those kind of things would happen. And yes, you're absolutely correct. This is not the end. So we've been starting since 2018. The next biennial goes even deeper. I'm very excited about it. Because ecologies is not only about, or climate is not only about air, water, earth, those kind of elements. They're about our relationship also, our relationship to nature, our relationship as, people, our relationship, ecosystems. Our ecosystems worked very well before, but some bonds have broken over time. We need to understand what bonds have broken, where can they be mended. But first we need to know what happened, We need to invest in this. Invest in relationships, invest in customs and traditions and values. The World City is a very beautiful condensed little unit It's like almost like a unit. It's not like small parts. They like a little machine. The walled city of Lahore. But if you roam around in the streets of the walled city, you realize that the buildings are tall and you're walking through the roads. Maybe because it was hot here. And then these roads give you shade, and putting these buildings clumped up gave you protection, right? So we need to go back to some of the knowledge-based systems that we have been using over centuries to understand why they were practiced in a way that they were. We had sehens in our homes. There was a reason behind the sehens, right? So Roshandan.
Yes.
Right? So we need to just, progress is important, but take along some of the learnings. I think we need to do a little bit of that. So I think, again, going back to what are we wanting to do and what we want to achieve from this biennial is just pause and to think about our history, our learnings, our legacy. Because it wasn't a problem, climate was not a problem, ecologies was not a problem like 50 years ago when our parents were there. My mother was composting. I wore my siblings, my sister's clothes. I mean, I did get my own clothes, but of course they pass on, and you're anticipating that my sister will stop wearing one of her outfits and give it to me, right? So those kind of things were there too. I mean, so ecologically, we were very ecologically sound people, especially South Asian. So we don't even have translations for most of these terms that people are using. Greenhouse gas emissions. God knows what does that mean in Urdu. So when we're going into schools and speaking to the kids, we were like trying to translate these words into Urdu and Punjabi.
Okay.
We didn't know where to begin. So the people, the kids we were working with, the teachers we were working with, were helping us translate most of this new language, new terms into it, and fit it into our vocabulary. We don't have those because this was never a concern. We were very ecologically friendly people. We are very much, our history is a Sufi history. We have to take charge of that. Our relationship with nature, with plants, with flora, fauna. There's something beautiful there. We don't have to lose everything in name of modernity, do we? But an equilibrium is important. And we are the ones who define. But we can only define when we take ownership of our past to actually decide the direction to the future.
So now I want to focus on the ways in which the Biennale is sharing these ideas or starting those conversations. So can you tell me about some of the installations in this year's Biennale? Where are they? What are they talking about? What stories are they bringing us?
Okay, so some of them are hard facts.
Okay.
So for example, Imran Qureshi's work is a poetic way of explaining how incredibly toxic those blue tanks on everybody's rooftops. If you take a trip down the metro line, you'll see everybody's house has a blue, water tank, PVC water tank, right? And they're incredibly toxic. So if we have learned something in recent past, plastic bottles, water in plastic bottles, placed in the cars, placed in the outdoors, are bad, why do you think a PVC
on the
rooftop, baking in the day, every day, can
I
be
didn't even
something,
think about that.
Right? So something good for you, right? But it has become such a normal thing. It's become a norm. So people think, oh, it's okay, they have it, I can have it. But we need to, again, like I said, rethink, reposition. We used to have a certain way we used to store water. Just rethink, do we need to go this route or not? Right? So his project in the metro station, especially in the metro station, because you can actually take the line and people who are taking the line would be able to see this and reflect on it. I think, so those are hard facts. Another beautiful project is Daniel Otero Torres, who is a Colombian French artist, and he's talking about a river in Colombia where people do coal mining, right? And in that, the whole lot of chemicals are used. Although freshwater river, you can't drink water from there anymore. So people have to rain harvest. So he's created a whole project out of rain harvesting. I think it's a very interesting, we need to do that too, right? I mean, a lot of times we're saying, oh, conserve water, 2040 this is going to happen, 2050 this is going to happen. We have to change our ways, we're going to talk about these things. So a lot of other communities throughout the world are also facing same or similar conditions for various reasons, but they are employing certain lifestyle changes or lifestyle modifications or taking certain directions. It's good for us to take tips from each other. So here's a beautiful project at Shalimar Gardens on that. I think you'd be surprised, but it's very important. अगर हम कहते हैं कि civilization पानी के साथ हुई है, ठीक है? All civilization started by the riverbed or riverside. And then one of the first tools that somebody made, which was most probably a woman who made it, was something from clay. Molded the clay, made something out of it, right? And if we see that as the first form of earthenware or object making, then we would say that might be the last. Because if all else comes and goes, the dirt or the mud or the clay or matti तो हमेशा है ना, आप उसमें आप कुछ ना कुछ तो बना सकते हैं. But हमारा आर्ट और क्राफ्ट के अंदर हमारा जो क्राफ्ट है वो इतना ज़्यादा अफेक्ट हुआ है जिसके बारे में हम कोई नहीं सोच रहा. And we need to really think about it and invest in it as a collective. Because वो भी कुछ important बातें हैं वहाँ पे हैं जो ecological और जो sustainability और जो society की हैं. So अभी हम recently we went all over Lahore, a little wider Lahore also, and tried to find potters who were making pots.
Okay.
Right? And then I was like, okay, what's the biggest pot you can make? 12 inches. 12 inches, like this side. Okay. They can make a very good gamla. They can make a very good, like a handi. But they've forgotten the complex form, surahi. It was a very important, object. With the matti ki surahi, it was also purifying water. With the matti ki surahi, it had like, the cap, the round base on the top. It went like that. If you poured, you wouldn't get a whole lot of water in here. It was a measure. Because when you poured it, it gave you half a glass. When you put it back and do it again, it would give you a full pint. Right? So these were technical tools, they were technical things that we've forgotten out of our memory in a very big way. So Daniel, another project in Shalimar Gardens, is talking about these vessels and objects and that the artist has made with the potters. And we were training and working with these potters, and then there's this lovely guy from Gujarat University, Ghaffar, who helped us actually make those. Because the potters were not able to do it. We need to invest in this. Our investment in art and culture, art, craft has to be primal, for a sustained community. I think another wonderful project, let's talk about the poetic part because this is too grim. We've lost Basant for various reasons, but one of the people who are the craftsmen who are the most affected, right? So what He Gu Yang's project was, which is really incredible, is working with local craftsmen. We want to separate the politics of kite flying to the art of kite making. At Shalimar Gardens, what you will see are these beautiful poetic, they're almost jewel-like kites that He Gu Yang has created. And Ustad Sahab has made those. And what it does is talk about the craft and reuse of craft and re-engagement with the skill, where we can save the skill and do something else with it. Because if you remember, these guddi guddas and patangs and all those things were very complex objects, and they're very decorative, some of them. So she brought her Korean hanji paper and the Pakistani guddi makers. They worked together to create these like beautiful objects, you know, a beautiful two cultures coming together with the history, working with the history of kites. I think Farida Batul and Usman Saeed have created these amazing gardens. So one thing that we were not able to do was bring rewilding projects into Pakistan, into Lahore, right? So rewilding के लिए जुर्रत चाहिए होती है. Let's just put it this way, yeah, right? हमें गार्डन और ग्रास कल्चर को इतना ज़्यादा प्रमोट कर दिया हुआ है, और इतना ज़्यादा क्योंकि हम उस कॉलोनियल माइंडसेट से नहीं निकल पा रहे कि हमने जब मियावाकी फॉरेस्ट लगाया तो वो तो एक्सेप्टेबल था, बट जब हमने रीवाइल्डिंग करने की कोशिश की वो एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं थी, बिकॉज नाउ वी टॉकिंग अबाउट द 70 years of the forest and rewilding, it has to be a little bit like the word says, wild.
Yeah, slight chaos.
Slight chaos. Beautiful chaos where the insects can come. So what we learned from Miyawaki planting trees was, while it was very good and brought down the temperatures, those kind of the city, you know, those kind of that area, whatever, but ecological balance के लिए हमें अभी भी 7 years of the forest के साथ काम करना था.
You need biodiversity.
So, biodiversity, for that you need bushes. Bushes where insects can come. Therefore, the birds would come to eat them. That's when the cheel and the kites and the crows are going to go away. Is when the birds are going to come and be in abundance. So to get to that space, we need rewilding. Paris is rewilding, London is rewilding, New York is rewilding. You name a big city they're rewilding. Who's not rewilding is us, because we just into this grass culture.
I think the manufactured beauty of grass. Yeah, because so I went to a consultation and somebody there was talking about what they wanted from the future of Lahore. And usme they said that we want a Lahore jahan we can hear the birds chirping. Because that is something that I feel like I haven't heard in such a long time. Jugnu, butterflies, all of these parts of the ecology have just disappeared. And it's not even something that I've realized, but maybe the new generation will never get to see those in Lahore.
I hope not.
Well, then we'll have to do something.
So these two guys have been working on urban rewilding projects. And I think that's going to be fantastic. What we were able to do in the biennial versus what we were not able to do during an off-biennial is that in off-biennial it was a leisure, in the sense the government is also working with the leisurely schedule, and we are also like trying to negotiate those kind of things. In biennial there's a fixed timeline, you have to like deliver, and everybody's committed to delivering. And so what is beautiful is what Usman Saeed and Farida Batul are doing is creating these spaces. It still took us time. So like the biennial started on 6th of October, we are still finishing those projects. They are tough. They are tough because the various areas that we need to negotiate is very tough. You can create a garden overnight, so that's another challenge. But I think these spaces in a year's time will look very beautiful, very different, and the biodiversity that we want will come about. And all we need is one good project.
Right.
Like when we started the afforestation project, the Liberty Market Miyawaki Forest was a catalyst to bringing about the 53 Miyawaki forests after. So we understand that we need one good project, and hopefully between the 3-4 sites that we have, we will have enough for people to understand that there is beauty in all of this as well. And lastly, what I would like to say is the Park Tea House has a beautiful history of progressive writers movements, Halka-e-Bab-e-Zog, you know, Lahore Arts Movement, and several others. You know, that place is a very precious site, and we call the city of literature because there's a Sunday book market that happens over there. So we work with Raza Ali Dada in creating this space, into an area where these Sunday book market people can actually don't have to put their books on the floor, whether it's rain or shine. It's बारिश हुई भी प्लास्टिक रख के उस पर किताबें रख के बेच रहे हैं. So I mean we need to change that, right? We need to give them respect because on the backs of these guys we call the city of literature, right? And they have been there before 1947 and they have been there rain or shine. What are we doing for these little urban ecologies that we have? So we are working towards these smaller urban ecologies, but they're very important for the larger ecosystem. So before the biennial is over, by the 8th of November, hopefully this place will be now activated, thanks to PHA again. So government taking ownership of these sites, I think that's beautiful. And the taxpayers' money also getting used in the right place, right space. I think that's also something good to see. And it's not for something in front of my house. It's actually something for the city, for our citizens. So we're trying to do these kind of like regenerative projects. We're trying to look at ecology differently with this project. We're trying to see how tangible, intangible kind of ecologies can be looked into, building global community of care, those kind of things, and seeing how do we respond to it, larger community responds to it in Pakistan, and international community responds to it, and then see what the next steps are going to be.
And I think this really connects well with the conversation that a lot of people are having कि Lahore में कोई public spaces नहीं है. Where are we supposed to go in our free time? What are we supposed to do? So it's great to have at least an event that is on for an entire month where anybody and everybody can go. It's free, it's open to the public. These are spaces that belong to the public. They're not gated off, they're not closed, and they're really in the heart of Lahore as a city, the historical heart of it. So how have you seen the public respond to this edition of the Biennale, and what kind of interactions have you had with them? What kind of interactions have they had with the art?
Achha, so I'll just respond to your question in a couple of parts. For example, the appetite is there. We Lahoris, the city of culture of undivided India, we still reverberate art and culture it's in our bones, in our mindset. We can't have a single conversation with each other without sharing a share or a verse of something, right? It's still very much us. But we also, like, it's 10 years of Lahore Biennale, and what we are seeing that Nasir Bagh, earlier this year in February, we got it cleaned up, right? We wanted to use it in public space. It was right next to NCA, Punjab University, GCU. Nobody had looked at it for such a long time. So I went to the DGPHA and the commissioner and said, listen, there's a bunker over there. I think it's a very good place for an art exhibition. And lo and behold, they're like civil and military people, they spoke to them and they had some negotiation and said, okay, let's open up an art gallery over there. So it was lying dormant, vacant for a very long time. Imran Qureshi is somebody who went in there, cleaned it up, put up his own show, because he's a very important artist, to activate that space. So I think these kind of spaces getting activated. Barkat Ali Hall, there's a girl, Zara Khan, who's done this exhibition, a collateral exhibition over there. It's now a place which is, a lot of art and cultural programming is happening. Wall City Authority is doing something tremendous over there. Aisha Khan is a lovely person. I mean, I'm naming these people because they have to be named. Because these are some of the people who are very quiet heroes in their quiet way. They're making all those little dents in the system to make it more porous, to make it more open, for people to move around, give us those spaces that you're talking about. So I think now, Nasir Bagh has become a place to go and sit and see some art. Sunday book market is going to become another place like that. Wall City तो कर ही रही है, वो तो अपने हिस्से का बहुत ज़्यादा उन्होंने काम किया है, वो कर भी रहे हैं. कुछ चीज़ों पे हम उनको क्रिटिक करते हैं, कुछ चीज़ों पे हम उनको कहते हैं आप अच्छा काम करें, पर एटलीस्ट हम ये तो कह सकते हैं ना कि वो जगह खोल रहे हैं शहर के लिए. और आहिस्ता आहिस्ता हमारे इस्तेमाल से उन चीज़ों में डायरेक्शन आएगी और वो चीज़ें बेहतर होंगी और वो लोग भी बेहतर करेंगे, हम भी बेहतर करेंगे, कुछ हम गलतियां करेंगे, कुछ वो शुरू में गलतियां करेंगे, बट जब तक हम थोड़ी बहुत गलतियां नहीं करेंगे, थोड़ा आगे नहीं निकलेंगे और डरेंगे नहीं इसके ऊपर और थोड़ा काम करेंगे, सो फिर चीज़ें अपना रास्ता खुद बना लेती हैं.
And I want to come then to what you view as the future of Lahore. So we've been having so many conversations around the Lahore Master Plan. Now the urban unit is developing the Lahore Climate Action Plan. So we're thinking a lot about what we want this city to be in the future. In your view, what role does culture, what role does art play in that future of Lahore? And how can we use these to kind of get that future and make it a reality?
I think artists, like you're a lawyer and you're working on policy, right? And I'm an artist, I'm creating all these, me or helping others create these fantastical objects. The nice thing is that we're parallel working in the same environment, in the same space, and the same concerns affect us. I may not be able to sit down and create policies, but I am working in the same space with the same concerns, and there's a lot of crossover. We need these crossovers. We need artists to work with lawyers, scientists, researchers, architects. These crossovers are incredibly important. Data collection, people. And I think I'm coming back to this biennial because I want people to go and see this biennial, because you see that crossovers in this biennial. You see architect working with, people with clay, forming clays or clay objects, and then they're creating something interesting with that. You see data scientists working with artists. You see farmers putting up, talking about ecologies. We're looking at cloth dyeing and looking at histories of that, and then trying to understand the ecologies behind it. So natural cloth dyeing. So and traditions and value systems and festivals and those kind of things. The role all of these play. And this intersection is incredibly important because that's the only way we will come up with a real solution. Because a solution where everybody has a role to play. It's not, sitting on the desk, in an armchair, and so I think this is what it needs to be. Our academics call us publics because we are little universe of ecosystems living in the same larger ecosystem, complete on its own, but at the same time living parallel to each other. We need cross sections and inter conversations, and the more we have, the frequently have, and the quickly we have those, the more solution oriented. I think we were in a think tank or a brainstorming session together. There was this lady talking about women in public spaces.
Yes.
Right? And I was like, oh my God, I built, I worked with the government, and with the government we built 72 bus stops just so that there are spaces for people to come and congregate, make it nicer for the women. But I was not able to take the project forward. And that lady was talking about certain things, and I'm like in my head thinking, this is exactly where I was stuck. And immediately I said to her, within that space, I said, would you like to work with me? And then she's like, what? So she's a researcher, data collector, she's a policy maker. And frankly speaking, I am creating these bus stops thinking it's going to be a nice place for women to come and sit, families to come and sit, because there's no place like that. There's going to be light. So in the day, in the night, they have a space dedicated to them. But I was not able to take it further to make it, I've been dying to work how to make, the transit easy in the buses. And that's a lady who has all the data. So now merging these two, to me it sounds simple. But these interactions are important where, the host who invited us, God bless his soul, to think that to mix different disciplines.
And that reminds me of one event at this year's Biennale that I felt really did that collaboration really well, which was Breathe Lahore.
Yes.
So when Dryden Goodwin brought his art to Pakistan but featured a local activist working on air pollution here, Abid Umar, there was that kind of collaboration that you see this issue taking place in London with air pollution. The air is increasingly getting difficult to breathe, but there's still policymakers, there are activists who are talking about it, working on it. And in Lahore, you see the exact same thing. Smog is such a big issue, but there's so many different parts of society who are working on it. What I really liked about how that session was organized was that it was a symposium with lawyers, with artists, with campaigners. Everybody was a part of that conversation, and it was also quite an indigenous conversation. We were talking about Lahore, we were talking about the issues we face in our work. That was one, I think, experience that really stood out to me, and I realized that, okay, actually there's a space for me as well within this art world. And our disciplines are so connected that we have so much to learn from each other as well.
True that. I think that was perhaps one of the most popular sessions, and clearly smog is hurting everybody, and there is no way forward. But we know some of the decisions. They're tough decisions, but somebody has to make them. We all know what they are, and we know who's supposed to make these decisions. I remember when we started working in 2018, the overall traffic-related number from urban unit in LDA was 65% of the overall, CO was being emitted by traffic.
Vehicles.
Yeah, and then some industry that we have. We don't have a lot of industry, and then. Like a couple of months ago, urban unit said 83% or 82%. I mean, it was unreal. Everybody's jaws dropped. Everybody's like, this can't happen. But we need to take these decisions. How many, the brick factories are more or less, they work on zigzag, and good that they're doing that. So that's taken care of. A lot of a good percentage of crop burning has stopped. Now we have to make the hard decisions.
Yeah, possibly the hardest.
Yes, but somebody has to make it.
Yeah,
and it's not you and me, but we can encourage people to make it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're part of the government, part of the politics, part of the education system, or civil society, other aspects of civil society, or other aspects. We all are breathing the same air, and everybody's kid is being affected. So it's not time to give into a lobby. It's time to give into yourself, and self first. Our kids, our generation first. So I think this is whenever they come to realize this, they will make this decision. But climate-related deaths are now being recorded, and now they're part of the system. And last year, Rafi Alam had put up this thing that there were a lot of pneumonia-related deaths, right? It doesn't take a scientist to know, or an artist to know. They're contributing towards a certain aspect, right? And they're only going to increase. We know that this happened in Delhi a couple of years ago, right? They have lung diseases, pneumonia. There were studies that came out from there. So now they're happening with us. So we know what it is.
So I want to end on this climate congress. What is going to happen in the congress? What do you want to get out of bringing all of these artists together?
So the artists, the scholars, the academics, they are frontline workers, they are all kinds of people from all over the world, over 63. And then a field group is also coming, so it's all together going to be something for a certain time around 100 people in Pakistan. So we're talking about serious academics, Howard Mittal Institute, academics coming from there, Cornell University, we're working with them, Sugatare and his colleagues coming from Berkeley. I mean, we're talking about a whole lot of people coming from Europe as well as America. And in conversation with scholars in Pakistan, right? And the idea again is to just sit together and talk about it, talk about the problems, talk about the solutions, talk about the way forward, talk about exchange of knowledge. Some of them are closed door sessions because not everything has to be for everybody, right? It's very important for us that academics and scholars get to exchange knowledge in closed door sessions where they can be themselves and speak freely and also exchange knowledge, right? Because that's how you all come up. So the idea about the biennial is not to hoard information, but to disseminate information and work as a larger collective. So I think a lot of that you will see every day. So it's very different from the hyper conferences like LLF and FAIRS and other people, right? This is a slow conference. It goes up to 7 days. So what's happening is that scholars and people who are not able to actually attend the closed door sessions or public sessions, you will have enough time to intermingle with the scholars, and they are in town for 7 days. That's a long enough period, and opportunities for our scholars will increase. You know, because we say the grassroots research is lacking in Pakistan. We say that interaction is lacking, global interaction is lacking. So we're hoping that in order to do a 7-day conference, more chances of conversations will take place, and hopefully more opportunities for our scholars to work locally, internationally will increase, and for other people to work with us. So like a two-way stream.
And I think once you meet, then you create those opportunities for yourself.
Exactly. Our goal is to bring people together. What they make out of it is for others to decide. And then I think they, you know, and then somebody's here for 7 days. You have long enough time to, you know, invest in us, or for us to invest in others.
And also to understand the ecology or the conversation around Lahore. You need time to take that in as well.
So Lahore as well as Pakistan. So I think the way that we're looking at it is, while the Lahore Biennale is situated in Lahore, it's looking at not only Lahore, Pakistan, but the region itself. Because I think, again, we have to, for this, as you know, look at it in a regional context, because it's, you know, it's not your house, it's your neighborhood.
Thank you so much, Ms. Qudsia. This has been a lovely conversation, and I feel like I've learned so much, and now I can't wait to attend the Climate Congress, to also go and see all of these installations for myself and see how other people are receiving it as well. So congratulations on the Biennale.
Thank you for inviting.
And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing you at the Congress, 2nd to the 8th of November.